So our reading for today is from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And he says, "In a real sense, all life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality." And so it is.
Thank you. Welcome to those of you who may have just arrived in the sanctuary. The theme for the month of March is Oneness, Seeking the Common Good. And my talk title today is Understanding Our Interdependence. Now, interdependence means a dependence between things. And if you've ever studied any biology, then you would know that there is a great deal of interdependence between all organisms, that no living organism exists in complete isolation from the other organisms that live in any particular place. So within that particular physical environment, then all organisms are inseparably interconnected or interdependent. Now, at the most basic of all levels, all organisms actually depend on their environment for much of their needs. So that would include things like food or water or shelter. They share the same air, they share the same earth, they share the same sun, they share the same water. Each living organism is part of an evolving biosystem or dynamic network. So take, for example, the plant world, right? The branches in a tree support the leaves that capture the sun's energy. And the green chlorophyll that is within the leaves actually transforms and stores that captured energy. Now, all of the plants share all of the same air with all of us and with all other organisms, and so they literally take in what we breathe out, and then they give back to us and to all other organisms what we need. It's a great system. When beavers, I know that you wanted to know all this morning. When beavers construct their wooden structures in streams, they actually create habitats for other species as well. The beaver dams are constructed in these streams, but what actually happens is that because of the completion of the beaver dam, there is created a slow-moving pond of water. And within that slow-moving pond of water, there are certain kinds of fish that can only survive if the water is slow-moving and not fast-moving. They can't survive. So in these ponds of water, they are allowed to prosper. And because they prosper and are present, then, of course, the beavers get to eat them. You wonder if they knew. Likewise, the creation of this slow-moving body of water allows nutrients that would otherwise wash downstream in fast water to actually settle in that pond. And the rich, nutrient-rich water that is in that pond then allows and supports the growth of new plant life. And now I'm back to the first example. See how that works? Everything is interconnected. Now, the bottom line is that nothing exists solely on its own, from the smallest atomic particle to the grandest of galaxies. every animate and inanimate being in our universe, including each and every single one of us, is defined by its interconnection or its interdependence to everything else. If any of these links are broken at any point, then nature will change or simply not operate. So every point, every organism is significant, an integral part of the unfoldment of life itself. We human beings are connected to each other and to the world around us. Our interconnectedness or our interdependence is actually essential to our health, to our survival, to our wholeness, or actually even to our existence. Take just a moment and think about the breakfast that you had this morning. Marianne, what did you eat? Toast. Toast with peanut butter. Now, who made that? Who milled the flour for the toast? Who milked the cow that gave you the milk for your cereal or the cheese for your omelet? Who grew the trees that bore the fruit that became the juice that you drank or the smoothie that you made? Who transported the fruit? Who stacked that fruit into that beautiful little pyramid at the grocery store? And then who sold the fruit to you when you drove to the grocery store in your car? Who made the refrigerator that you store all of this food in to keep it fresh? And who made the car that you drove to the grocery store to get the food? Who made the clothes that you're wearing today? Who or what made the material that the clothes are made out of? I mean, really, I could go on and on. And the truth is that each and every single one of us here has depended, even before arriving here this morning, has depended upon hundreds of people in hundreds of different ways, people that we probably have never met or will ever meet in our lives. Can you imagine what it would be like if we lived in a world where we were all by ourselves? Where there was nobody else around? If we took away all of these people, took them out of the equation, all of the people who help to clothe us or to feed us or to keep us warm or to put a roof over our heads, we would be naked, hungry, cold, and just sitting out in the elements. We would have to do everything for ourselves. Now, thousands of years ago, and even as recent as the frontier days, the world was much different than it is today. So self-sufficiency was really critically important when we lived in such a hostile environment or when our neighbors lived so very far away from us. Independence, self-reliance, self-determination, self-sufficiency were vital to our survival. However, this is not really the world that we live in today. While independence, self-reliance, self-determination, self-sufficiency are still important, we are becoming an increasingly more complex society where we are increasingly more and more dependent upon one another. Everything is becoming so specialized. Now, in fact, we are interdependent with just about everything and everyone that we come into contact with. In a poem called The Hands of Others, James Stockinger says, "Each of us lives in and through an immense movement of the hands of other people. The hands of other people lift us from the womb. The hands of other people grow the food that we eat, weave the clothes we wear, and build the shelters that we inhabit. The hands of other people give pleasure to our bodies in moments of passion and aid and comfort in times of affliction and distress. It is in and through the hands of other people that the common wealth of nature is appropriated and accommodated to the needs and the pleasures of our separate individual lives. And at the end, it is the hands of other people that lower us into the earth. We also have to understand that we are interdependent on a global basis. Today, there really isn't a country in the world that provides for all of their own needs by themselves. They all import from others what they need, and they export what other people need to them. It is also true that anything that happens in one country affects its neighbors. Really, anything. With every potential choice, policy, move, or action, each country must consider its impact on the entire world. Interdependence is both a fact of life and an orientation to it. Whether or not we consciously engage within the interdependence of life, it continues to happen all around us. Interdependence as an orientation asks us to make a conscious choice to align with life. It asks us to recognize the fundamental relationality of everything. It also asks us to attend to and nurture the mutual influence that we have on each other, both individually and collectively, as the religions, the cultures, the races, the communities, and the countries that seem to separate us. To nurture those relationships, we have to really begin to appreciate all of these connections, all of the moments of our interdependence with each other, to really stand in gratitude for them, because we really wouldn't be here or have clothes or eat or have shelter or be warm without them. We're invited to step into a deeper level of responsibility, a deeper level of accountability, and a deeper level of cooperation in order to create a world that works for everyone. We have to recognize the basic truth of the interdependent structure of life itself. And when we individually and collectively are finally able to do this, the entire complexion of our lives will change. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King says, if we are to have peace on earth, our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation, and this means that we must develop a world perspective. No individual can live alone. No nation can live alone. Now, when we first arrived on the planet, we were dependent on the others in our lives for all of our most basic needs. And when we moved into adolescence, we really strove to become independent and to take care of ourselves. And somewhere along the line, we eventually recognize that we need other people and that they need us. And that we are interdependent beings, and the world doesn't work unless we actually become committed to taking care of each other. So who do we have to be, and what do we have to do in order for each of us individually and collectively to really live from our interdependence? Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about the characteristics that are necessary for us to integrate ourselves in a more effective state of interdependence. And he had a few of them that really resonated with me. The first is that we have to have a listening mindset. Having a listening mindset is our willingness to seek first to understand and then to be understood. To seek first to understand and then be understood. It's the practice of getting into another person's world and actually beginning to see the world through their eyes, through their lenses. The second is having emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the skill of understanding and accepting our emotions and then putting them to work wisely for our own benefits and for the benefit of others. It's also, while we are doing that, we're simultaneously not being enslaved or beholden to those emotions that really don't work for us, for those emotions that aren't really helpful in any particular situation. To recognize them, but to let go of them when it's necessary. The third is having humility. Humility is the acknowledgement that our independence is not so independent. That whatever we have achieved was also ultimately made possible by the other people in our lives. This includes the recognition that whatever transformation we hope to achieve in the future, both in our own lives and in the lives of the planet, will only be possible through the collaboration and synergy, through our collaboration and synergy with others. It's the only way that it's going to happen. The fourth is having an abundance mentality. Now, this is the realization that success and fulfillment is not a zero-sum game. And partnering with others and supporting them results in the kind of world that would not be possible if we were all operating as separate, individualized entities. The fifth is having empathy and understanding. This is the recognition that really all effective relationships and partnerships must start with an agreement or a commitment or a really genuine desire to listen, to really listen to the other people in our lives and to understand that person's situation and their point of view. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with it, but we do have to have a genuine desire to sit with them and to listen and to understand where they are coming from. The sixth is having a servant's heart. Having a servant's heart is the desire to discover and meet the needs of others. And by meeting the needs of others, I mean to do so genuinely based on a desire to serve. Just on a desire to serve, not a desire to fix or to, make better, not in a way that, makes them less or makes them feel bad about who they are or what they're doing. No, in a way to serve, and in a way that is not expecting to get anything back, but to just simply serve them or to serve mankind. And the last one that I shared today is having a vision. Having a vision. Having a vision of a future that actually inspires us. Having a vision for the future that naturally guides our steps in the direction of creating that particular envisioned future, and rather than just going along with the flow for a future that we perceive is going to happen. No, have that vision. Hold that vision in your mind's eye and create from that vision. Don't turn away. Don't turn back to the way that things are simply because we think that they have to be. Buckminster Fuller says, you never change things by fighting against the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. Each of us can assist in bringing forward a new vision of a world that works for everyone by stepping into our oneness with the divine. Each of us is the presence of the divine, and the divine is the presence of the allness of possibility. We each have the power to create anew out of nothing, from our deep awareness of our oneness and from a deep awareness of our truth that anything is possible. Just because the world has always been a certain way doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. Think about an artist, for example. Well, let's take Leanne Wallace, for example, who goes into a junkyard that is filled with things that people no longer want, filled with things that no longer work. And yet she gathers up all of these scraps of metal and pieces of things that have been discarded and creates an absolutely beautiful piece of art, a magnificent sculpture from that junkyard wreckage. Anything really is possible. Each of us can assist in bringing forward a new vision of a world that works for everyone when we come together from a place that honors our shared humanity. A place filled with empathy and understanding, a place where we are more willing to listen than to speak, a place that is steeped in our interdependence. Each of us can assist in bringing forward a new vision of a world that works for everyone when we cultivate an abundance mentality, a servant's heart, and true emotional intelligence. Each of us can assist in bringing forward a new vision of a world that works for everyone through humility and the recognition that whatever transformation we hope for in the future will only come about through our collaboration, cooperation, and synergy with others. True transformation is only possible through cultivating, embracing, and really deepening this idea of interdependence. It will only happen that way. Please repeat after me. Today, I recognize my interdependence with everything. I recognize my interdependence with everything. I choose to live my life as if my life. I choose to live my life as if my life and the lives of everyone everywhere depends on it. And the lives of everyone everywhere depends on it because it does. And so it is. And so it is. So I invite everyone to turn within and to pray with me. Recognizing the one spirit, the one life, the one love, the one heart, the one mind, the one energy back of everything that there is. I truly know that it is eternal, that it is benevolent, that it is an energy with no circumference and points of center everywhere. I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I am one of those points. that right where I am, God is, that there is a hologram of all that God is right at this exact point. And because I know that this is true for me, I know that it is true for each and every person here today, each and every person within the sound of my voice. Each of us is a divine emanation of the divine, and ambassador of its presence on the planet. And it is from that place of unity that I speak these words about and for each of us today, individually and collectively, as the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, truly knowing that we are interdependent. How could it not be any other way? We are connected to each other in ways that cannot be separated. Sometimes it might appear that there is a separation between our ideologies, our religions, our politics, and many other things. But the truth is that there is only one of us here, that there is no separation between ourselves, each other, and God. And so what I know and claim for each of us today is that there was a way that we can live our lives from this awareness of our interdependence. That while we can honor things like self-sufficiency and self-reliance, self-determination, that in the end, all of those things are good, but in the end, we have to know that we are here to help each other, that we are here to take care of each other, that we are here to lift each other up and to remind each other the truth of who we are. I know that with empathy and understanding and being willing to listen to another person's story, to hear who they are without judgment, but to just listen, that we can truly create a world that works for everyone. And for that, I am grateful. I release these words into that law that only ever says yes. Letting go and letting God be God. And I invite each of us to anchor these words for ourselves and each other simply by saying, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you all very much.